sanctions, but with additional sanctions now in Trump's second term, and with the threats of even tourists who want to go to Cuba, to enjoy Cuba from Europe, now can't go because their visas would be denied coming into the United States. So everything the U.S. is doing in Latin America is making the lives of people miserable. And so it is so important, as Brian said, that this is a moment. Every day I wake up, I don't know about you, I wake up and say, did Trump bomb Venezuela last night? And every day that it doesn't happen, I think we have another day to fight this administration. And as Brian said, we're going to do that in the streets, building up, but we're also going to do it in Congress. Because let me tell you, I have never felt in all the times we've been going to Congress that this is more important right now. Because I am reading the papers every single day, and what they are saying is that the opposition that is coming from Congress is putting the brakes on this administration. And the opposition coming from Congress is coming from, yes, the Democratic Party, but it's also starting to break through in the Republicans as well. We are starting to see Republicans say, I'm not so sure about the blowing up of those boats. We are starting to see Republicans say, I'm not so sure about this idea of getting involved in another war. Could this be another 20-year engagement in Latin America? And so it is really important that we continue the pressure on Congress, because there have been votes and there will be votes coming up called War Powers Act. Now, if you don't know what that is, it reaffirms what the Constitution says, which is that the executive branch of the government doesn't have the authority to wage war. It can only come from the legislative branch. And so getting Congress to reassert its authority, and not just reassert its authority to wage war, but also to say, we don't want to wage war. So now is the time to continue to pressure Congress. Now is the time to get out in the streets. Now is the time to be absolutely clear. We want those 15,000 troops that have been deployed to the region to be taken away. And certainly not to be deployed on our streets either. We want all of those aircraft carriers, those F-35s, that buildup of the biggest armadas in the world, we want them to leave the Caribbean. While this administration is bragging about how it has revived the Monroe Doctrine, they even talk about the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. We, the people of this country and of the entire hemisphere, say we want to bury once and for all the Monroe Doctrine. To tell people in Latin America what their governments should be, who they should vote for. And if we want to see democracy in the continent, let's start right here in the United States. Troops off of our streets, ICE out of our communities, and let's bring some money back from the Pentagon to invest in people's needs and not war. Thank you. Hands off Venezuela. 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 Fund people's needs. Fund people's needs. Not the war machine. Not the war machine. Fund people's needs. Fund people's needs. Not the war machine. Not the war machine. Fund people's needs. Fund people's needs. Not the war machine. Not the war machine.
Fund people's needs.
Fund people's needs.
Not the war machine.
Not the war machine.
We're gonna try something new. I need some audience participation. So I'm gonna say something, you're gonna say shut it down. What are you gonna say?
Shut it down.
Trump's lies.
Shut it down.
Imperialism.
Shut it down.
Endless war.
Shut it down.
The whole damn system.
Shut it down.
Trump's lies.
Shut it down.
Imperialism.
Shut it down.
Endless wars.
Shut it down.
The whole damn system.
Shut it down.
Trump's lies.
Shut it down.
Imperialism.
Shut it down.
Endless wars.
Shut it
The
down.
whole damn system.
Shut it down.
Trump's lies.
Shut it down.
Imperialism.
Shut it down.
Endless wars.
Shut it
The
down.
whole damn system.
Shut it down.
Let's welcome up our next speaker, Netfa from the Black Alliance for Peace.
Thank you. As said, my name is Netfa. I'm with the Black Alliance for Peace, and the Black Alliance for Peace has sent me here to deliver this message. Please bear with me. On behalf of the Black Alliance for Peace, we understand that U.S. imperialism is unable to accept the sovereignty, progress, and moral example of the Bolivarian Revolution, and it's escalating its aggressive attacks against Venezuela to destroy its example and seize its resources. This is by no means an isolated struggle. What started as aggression against Venezuela and the Bolivarian Revolution has already claimed more than 80 lives of working class people in the Caribbean and Pacific. These attacks and the wider ongoing pattern of regional militarization and imperialist control fundamentally violate the principles of the zone of peace. As U.S. Southern Command, Southcom, has systematically transformed the Caribbean into a staging ground for its hegemonic projects. Puerto Rico, a colonial territory, is consistently used as a strategic site for the deployment and launch of military exercises, normalizing its status as a forward operating base, while nations like Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago are treated as subordinate puppet states that risk their own sovereignty to facilitate U.S. objectives. Simultaneously, Haiti has been cast as a laboratory for imperial policy, where an accelerated militarization and occupation over the last 4 years has provided a blueprint for intervention. The racist and cynical designation of Haiti paramilitary armed groups as terrorists to be eradicated by U.S.-led occupation has done nothing to relieve impoverished, marginalized Haitians from the violence of these gangs, because they are a direct consequence of imperialism. And yet the excuse and Department of War's and yet the excuse and label of terrorism now has been directly exported to the case of Venezuela. There, the U.S. Department of War cynically compares Caribbean people in fishing boats to Al-Qaeda, a transparent tactic to manufacture a pretext for full military invasion and attack. But the Black Alliance for Peace is clear. It is not just Trump or the Republican Party, but the U.S. settler colonial state that is the enemy of peace and true human rights. Its actions of war and economic destruction in our region are responsible for the massive forced coercive migration of the global South, the parasitic exploitation of U.S. capitalists of the peoples and nations of our region have created the conditions that have forced millions to desperately attempt to get to the North just to live. Historically, U.S. administrations have rejected the idea that the U.S. is equal to any other state. Make America great again, and the liberal claims of U.S. exceptionalism are simply two sides of the same white supremacist coin. That is why the doctrine of full spectrum dominance is proudly embraced by the duopoly and foreign policy community, and reminds us of the guiding bipartisan strategic objective of U.S. foreign policies, no matter which party resides in the White House. To oppose this bipartisan militarization and violence and to expel the nefarious forces of imperialist colonial violence from our region, we must be steadfast in guaranteeing our Americas as a zone of peace. This guarantee can only be built from the bottom up, through the grassroots coordination and popular struggle that elevates, focuses on, highlights anti-imperialist national sovereignty. This is why the Popular Steering Committee for the Zone of Peace in our Americas network, which BAP is a part, launched the U.S. NATO out of our Americas network earlier this year. The network is the mass organization structure of the Zone of Peace campaign designed to educate the public and strengthen America's wide consciousness among the peoples of the region. The Black Alliance for Peace has joined this national day of action against the war in Venezuela to defend Venezuela's sovereignty and connect our struggles. The gravity of the movement demands a coordinated and powerful response that moves from mobilization to sustained organization. Our movements must pull together our forces to expose the imperial lies that cynically label popular resistance as terrorism, broadening our analysis to expose the interlocked assaults on sovereignty across the region. And we must understand our collective consciousness beyond merely exposing these lies and calling for liberal reforms and towards challenging state violence and oppression through popular power. This event unfolds as we approach Human Rights Day on December 10th. The U.S. rhetoric of human rights is systemically betrayed by the enabling of atrocities in West Asia and the destabilization of sovereign states in Africa and Latin America, to the brutal policing, economic violence, and systematic racism evident within their own major cities and rural areas. The dichotomy reveals that human rights within the Western imperialist framework are not universal principles, but instruments, tools wielded to condemn adversaries, while justifying intervention, economic warfare, and the maintenance of a global order of profound inequality. Against this fallacy, we champion a people-centered human rights framework. This is not an abstract idea, but a practice of collective struggle, from Venezuela to Guinea-Bissau to Washington, D.C. To advance these rights, the mobilizations today must fuel the concrete building of national coalitions against Southcom, must enhance local self-defense networks, and must learn from the powerful examples of Venezuela's communal militias and projects that embody popular democracy. The steadfastness of the Venezuelan people who have joined these militias by millions to defend their homeland is not just an act of national resistance, it is living proof that alternatives to imperial domination exist. The U.S. empire seeks to destroy the Bolivarian Revolution precisely because it shows we can fight for people-centered human rights and for true, just, militant peace. In unwavering solidarity with the Venezuelan people, we in the Black Alliance for Peace and the U.S. NATO out of our Americas network are committed to continuing this fight and organizing in solidarity with their masses and popular movements across the Americas to defend sovereignty, dignity, and the right to forge a different future. Defend Venezuela's sovereignty. U.S. and NATO out of our Americas. Make our Americas a zone of peace and end neocolonialism and militarism in the Caribbean. Thank you.
No boots on the ground, no bombs in the air.
No boots on the ground, no bombs in the air.
U.S. out of everywhere.
U.S. out of everywhere.
No boots on the ground, no bombs in the air.
No boots on the ground, no bombs in the air.
U.S. out of everywhere.
U.S. out of everywhere.
No boots on the ground, no bombs in the air.
No boots on the ground, no bombs in the air.
U.S. out of everywhere.
U.S. out of everywhere.
No boots on the ground, no bombs in the air.
No boots on the ground, no bombs in the air.
U.S. out of everywhere.
U.S. out of everywhere.
We want justice, you say how?
We want justice, you say how?
End the sanctions now.
And think the saints now.
We want justice, you say how?
want justice, you say how.
And the sanctions now.
And the sanctions now.
We want justice, you say how.
We want justice.